I see it.
All right, welcome everybody. I am Eve Samples. I'm Executive Director of Friends of the Everglades. We have a really exciting clean water conversation today. We'll be talking about sugarcane burning in Florida, particularly in the Glades communities. And this is our 5th clean water conversation at Friends of the Everglades. We've talked about Lake Okeechobee discharges. We've talked about the EAA reservoir. We've talked about the health impacts of harmful algal blooms. And many of our issues relate to justice and environmental justice in particular. And over the last few months, we at Friends of the Everglades have really redoubled our commitment to focusing on justice and the cross-section with environmental justice and environmental conservation. And today's conversation is really going to put a bright spotlight on that issue because sugarcane burning and the way it's executed in Florida just really has a disproportionate impact on certain communities and not others. So we're going to get into that. But without further ado, I do want to introduce our guests. First, we have Ms. Keena Phillips. She is a resident of South Bay who's worked for many years against the environmental injustice of sugarcane burning in the EAA, which is the Everglades agricultural area. Next, we have Robert Mitchell. He lives in Belle Glade. He's a chef, I should say. He also recently ran for public office, and he's an organizing representative for Sierra Club's Stop Sugarfield Burning campaign. So welcome, Robert and Keena. And finally, last but not least, we have Patrick Ferguson. Patrick is an organizing representative for the Sierra Club's Stop Sugarfield Burning campaign and has paid attention to this issue for many years, really has a lot of expertise on the topic. So looking forward to talking with you today, Patrick, too. So welcome, everybody. Glad to have you here.
Thanks for having us on.
Be here.
We are live on Facebook, and I'll just let our Facebook audience know that if you have questions about this topic, please post them in the comments. We'll get to as many as possible over the course of this conversation. We have a lot of important information to cover, so we probably won't get to all of them, but please post your questions. If we can't get to them live, we'll do our best to answer them in the comments afterwards. So without further ado, I want to talk a little bit about Keena's background and Robert's background. I want you to tell us, Keena, we'll start with you, a little bit about how you came to get involved in this effort and why it's important to you and your family.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Keena Phillips, and I've been in October, I think it'll be 5 years that I've been fighting for justice for clean air in my community. And I got into this because of some personal things that happened in our family, and it got our attention. And so it was a small group of people that was coming together and trying to figure out what was going on and why certain people was.
We lost your audio a little bit, Keena. But I'll jump in and say that I know that Keena has a daughter who went to Rosenwald Elementary School, which we're going to talk about, which is really affected by sugarcane burns right next door. So let's pause on Keena while she gets her audio connection back. And Robert, please tell us a little bit about why you are involved in this effort, Robert. Welcome.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for allowing me to join today. The reason, I'm Muck City, I'm straight from the muck, and I've been there all my life. And when we talk about issues about this particular subject of sugarcane burning, I've experienced it all my life and always had some question marks about it. But recently, as time went on, I had some personal things that happened as well. I have a niece that started to suffer from asthma. And we wanted to look into some things a little further because that wasn't anything that was really known to our family or anything that we normally had. And it was tracing back to the air quality, which was something I experienced as well, which I'll probably talk about a little later. But once I seen the Stop the Burn movement, it was just common sense to me that it was something that needed to be done and some conversations we needed to have to find some solution for the betterment and the health of our community.
Great. Thank you, Robert. We appreciate that. And Patrick, I know you work for Sierra Club. This is a job for you, but you also have a bit of a personal connection to Glades communities. Tell us about that while I'm queuing up some images that you can use to tell us more about the actual process of sugarcane burning.
Sure. So my first connection to the Glades communities was through high school football. I went to Cardinal Gibbons High School, and we were in the same district as Glades Central. And we always played them, and certainly got our butts kicked. But playing Glades Central, I always got a real positive impression just from the generosity of the players and their families, whether it was them coming down to Fort Lauderdale to play us or us coming up to Glade Central. And even though we got our butts kicked, we always had a great cookout afterwards. So I always appreciated that hospitality and marveled at the caliber of athletes that come from this small community. And it wasn't until, years later, after I graduated law school and had taken the job with Sierra Club, which, was a great opportunity for me to pursue two passions of mine, social justice and environmental issues, which is really what this campaign is all about. And that opportunity really opened my eyes to the environmental injustice that sugarcane burning imposes on the Glades communities.
Great. So I'm gonna, on that note, queue up an image here, and let's see if you can see that. All right. Are you seeing my slideshow?
Yes.
Yes. Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So, Patrick, tell us a little bit about why sugarcane burning happens in Florida, and particularly in the Glades communities, what the process is like, and why it's used in the communities south of Lake Okeechobee.
Sure. Well, to start things off, every October and lasting through May is the annual sugarcane harvesting season, which takes place within and around the Everglades agricultural area. And each day during the harvesting season, sugarcane growers prior to harvest will burn off the outer leaves and tops of the sugarcane plant, they refer to that as the trash. And they burn off the trash to make way, so it's an easier and cheaper and quicker harvesting practice to remove that trash material. And so then after the fields are burned, mechanical harvesters come in and collect the sugar bearing stocks, and they chop them up in the billets, and then those billets are then sent to the mills where they're processed into sugar. And I should note that this takes place on over 400,000 acres of sugarcane fields within the region, which include West Palm Beach County, Hendry County, Glades County, Martin County, and also to a smaller extent, Highlands and Okeechobee County. So in all the counties bordering Lake Okeechobee, there's some sugarcane grown, but the vast majority, 75% of the total commercial acreage, roughly, is within Western Palm Beach County, hugging the Glades communities of South Bay, Belglade, and Pahokee.
Great. Thank you, Patrick. I just want to pause on this photo to explain what it is. This is ash dusted on top of a car after a burn, correct? And I understand this is a common sight during the harvest season.
Yes.
So on that note, I'm going to flip to the next slide here. This is a really important component of the story that I'd like Keena to weigh in on. This is Rosenwald Elementary School. Right next to Rosenwald Elementary School is just under 8 acres of sugarcane fields that are harvested, where burns are conducted when children are in school sometimes. And as you can see from this news story from some years ago, at one point, 6 students went to the hospital as a result of this. So there are serious concerns about this, and Keena knows them very well because her daughter, who's now 14, used to be a student at Rosenwald. So Keena, tell us a little bit about what happens at Rosenwald Elementary.
Okay, Rosenwald is a school that is like 800 feet away from my house. It was my elementary school. And it just recently got a rebuilt campus now where it's enclosed. And so this school is wrapped with sugarcane. And so on this particular day, my daughter was in the classroom, and I guess they forgot to give the warning that they was going to burn around the school. So they left the windows open. And so they began to burn. And because the sugarcane is grown all the way up to the gate where they had recess at, the fire was so big. And when the kids looked out, they thought that the fire was going to come in and burn them up. So the kids began to start screaming and hollering, and they thought they was going to die. So you have kids that's panicking, you have kids that's having asthma attack. You know, it just was a whole lot that was going on. And so my daughter was in the classroom when it was going on. And so that's how, you know, I get all of the, you know, particulars about what happened that day. This same school was the school that I grew up in, like I said. And when I grew up there, it was open quarters. And so it was at this point where we knew we needed a new school. And the main weapon that we used to get our new school was we went before them and told them we're wrapped in sugarcane. And so when it burned, we got snakes and rats and all this kind of things that comes on the quarter. And we have people that's suffering with asthma. We got black snow, which is what we call the black snow that is coming on the campus. You know, we need a new school. That same problem still exists today. Even though we have gotten a new school, we're still wrapped in sugarcane, and we still have kids that suffer with the same type of problems. So it needs to be dealt with.
Thank you for explaining that. And we're definitely going to go into more detail on some of the health impacts. What shocked me as I was researching this topic is that the Palm Beach County School District leases those 7.8 acres to the sugar company that burns. And so this is sanctioned and enabled by the school district and clearly affecting children. So an area of concern, to say the least. I want to turn now to Robert, and I'm just going to flip to the next map, which shows wind directions of some of these sugar burns. And Patrick will go into a little more detail on this momentarily. But Robert, tell us about what you see in terms of health impacts from your perspective in Belglade.
Well, as I mentioned to you earlier, you know, I have a niece that actually suffers from asthma, and it's pretty safe to say that it's from the sugarcane burning. But also just personally, many people may not know this, especially in Belglade, but you know, I sing a little bit, you know, and anytime I always used to call it the curse because I didn't understand. Anytime I came home, I would try to make sure that I didn't talk too loud or just really, take care of my voice, because I'm like, why do I always get hoarse when I come home? I'm never able to sing. And it wasn't until a few years ago that it clicked for me. And I say, Lord, it's the air. Because no matter where I go, whether I go to Tallahassee, whether I go to Los Angeles, whether I go any other areas around, I never had the problem on my vocals like I do at home. And it resonated with me. And I said, you know what? You know, we need some solutions to this. And especially, Eve, when I found out that in other communities, let me just be very specific. In other communities that were non-Black, that they actually had contracts that they allowed the wind, when the wind was blowing their way over their communities, it actually could not burn. But the black snow could comfortably fall on my community. And that was an issue to me. And especially when we have so many solutions out here that could prevent that. And not only that, but bring prosperity to the community by making these changes. So that made me more interested. But as a health result, again, I have personally suffered with the air quality there. And also, like I say, people in my family, especially my niece, had to suffer with asthma because of this. And again, when we're just here trying to find some great solutions for our community where her soil is her fortune, you know, so yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for explaining that. And yes, let's address this head on. And I think this map is a great way to explain it. So these burns are allowed to be conducted when the wind is blowing toward Black communities in the glades, and not when the wind is blowing toward wealthier white communities on the coast. So Patrick, can you explain this map for us? This was from one day of burns, as I understand it.
Sure. So this is a screenshot from the Florida Forest Service's satellite burn map, which on any given day during the harvesting season will show where active burns are taking place. And on this map in particular, the green pins represent sugarcane burns on fields taking place on a single day. And to really break down the environmental justice of these rules, you have to go back to their history. And the origin of these rules goes back to the early 90s when the communities in central Palm Beach County, such as Wellington, started getting developed. And this led folks who had never experienced the smoke and ash from sugarcane burning to come in contact with this. And it generated a large public outcry. And relatively quickly, the state and the sugar industry got together to put together a series of new sugarcane burning regulations that were primarily based off wind speed and direction. And how they were formatted was on a given day, based off wind readings, if smoke and ash plumes were projected to go towards eastern Palm Beach County, then that burn permit would be denied. However, when winds would blow the smoke and ash plumes towards the inland rural glades communities, then there's otherwise minimal protections put in place. And a result of what you can see on this map in a given day is how it plays out with the sugarcane burns currently. And yeah, so this really created a situation where the rules put in place were designed to prioritize protection of whiter affluent communities to the east. Meanwhile, you've got communities to the west, the Glades communities in particular, which are predominantly Black and brown and lower income communities that are left to disproportionately bear the brunt of the negative impacts from this toxic harvesting practice. And I should mention that in addition to the Glades communities, other communities within the region are also disproportionately impacted from this regulatory scheme. For instance, you have Hendry County, folks in Glades County, and to a growing extent in Western Martin County, the community of Indiantown, due to expanded acreage there, sugarcane burning and its negative impacts have been becoming more and more of a growing problem. And also because the fact that predicting wind conditions and speed ahead of time is an imperfect science, and it can be unpredictable. Even folks in Wellington and Eastern Palm Beach County can be impacted to certain extents during the harvesting season.
Mm-hmm. So Patrick, we heard from Robert and Keena about what they've seen in their own neighborhoods, their own communities in terms of health impacts. What does the data tell us? I understand EPA has some pretty alarming evidence of disproportionately high respiratory problems in communities where the burns occur.
Sure. So the EPA on their website has an environmental justice index health mapping tool. And the Glades communities, the zip codes that encompass the areas most impacted by pre-harvest sugar field burning range between the 80 to 99 percentile risk rate for lifetime residents for both respiratory health issues and also cancer risk for lifetime residents within that region. And it should be noted that due to the large scale of burning that takes place every year in Palm Beach County, the EPA's national emissions inventory data set shows that there's more pollution released from agricultural fires in Palm Beach County than any other county within the entire United States. And as we know from the current regulatory scheme based off wind direction, the brunt of these impacts is confined to the Glades communities.
Let me jump in there and just mention the CDC has issued some guidelines in this pandemic era with COVID-19 related to burns. But before we get into that, Keena, you've talked about the medical impacts you've seen just in your workplace. Your day job is in a medical center. You have worked in a medical center where you've seen more people coming in during burns. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I was working, well, I still work in the medical field, but at that time I was working for a primary doctor. So we see from birth to death. And you would see like during those months of the burning, to stop the sugar, well, not stop the sugar, but the burning of the cane, that there's an increase that comes in. And you have people that we would have to send straight to the emergency room, or we'll have to put on a machine at that time, or you'll see us writing strips for more people to get machines. And so what happened was when my daughter had her son, which was a full-term baby, and he was healthy, but he began to struggle with his breathing when he was born. And so it was to the point that we couldn't hardly take him outside because he was born in December, and it was a whole lot of burning going on around that time. And he had to begin to start getting on the machines and everything. And I'm like, wait 1 minute. And this was around the same time that we was introduced to the young lady that worked for the Sierra Club. And I was like, I got to get in this fight. I got to see, what I can do, because I cannot leave this fight for my children and my grandchild to struggle with when I see that there's a problem that going on. When you see the elderly people can't breathe, and the children, it's constant. And when we was growing up, we seen this happening all the time. My friends had asthma. It was like a norm to us. We was excited when burning season came, because you got people that's working, you got sugarcane that we're going to be able to eat on, we're going to be able to catch us some rabbits. So we was excited about this, but we didn't understand the effect that it was having on the lives of the people in the community, and how people were always sick during those times, until I got in the medical field and began to see it for myself, that this is what's really going on. And so that what put me in the fight. I had to fight for my grandson. I got to fight for those that don't have a voice. And another thing I want to say too, just picking back off of what they was talking about, when the winds go to the east, those peoples had a voice. Those people stood up and they spoke up for what they wanted and what they wasn't going to deal with in their community.
Yes, they did.
Oh, we lost Kina's audio again, but I mean, compelling points and very well taken. Did you want to jump in, Robert?
Yeah, I'll speak in here for my sister just to continue on what she's saying. But what she was saying is that absolutely the community came together, and when they experienced the black snow, they said, "Hell no, it wasn't going to happen." And they seen changes and changes that was as small as turning the wind direction to another way. But the wind direction was all for us to take in. So, what she's trying to say, we have to do the same thing as a community, is to fight, because we know we're having problems breathing. We know that this is an issue, and we actually have some great solutions. So why not talk about it? So, yes.
You're absolutely right. We got to have a voice as well. We have to stand up for what's right. And it's not like, oh, they looking out for them. No, it's the point of, we've been silent for too long. We've been silent and intimidated for too long, and it's time out for it now.
And Black lives do matter.
I like your shirt, Robert. Thank you. And Friends of the Everglades supports Black Lives Matter too. So I want to mention the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, guidance on burning in this era of COVID-19 and the pandemic. I'm just going to quickly read here what they posted in June. CDC says, consider implementing a temporary ban on open burning as a quick and effective way to reduce smoke exposure for people with COVID-19. So this is obviously a temporary fix. We want a long-term fix, and there are other alternatives which we're going to get into. It's called green harvesting. But Patrick, before we jump to that, can you talk a little bit about why this is an environmental concern beyond the obvious air pollution that we're looking at in this dramatic photo? What else does it do to the environment itself?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, all that pollution that is released from pre-harvest sugar field burning through the process of atmospheric deposition finds its way back to the soil and finds its way back to nearby waterways. And through that process of atmospheric deposition, nitrogen and phosphorus released from burning ends up back into nearby waterways, which does contribute to nutrient pollution, which we all know is a big problem impacting nearby waterways in and around the Everglades agricultural region. And another factor involved is the pre-harvest burning certainly releases greenhouse gas emissions and negatively impacts surrounding wildlife that are caught up in the flames, which is no surprise that when you see the vultures circling freshly burned sugarcane fields. And there's also the factor involved of the environmental benefits of the solution. Pre-harvest sugar field burning contributes to rates of soil erosion and subsidence, which is a big problem in the muck soils of the Everglades agricultural area in particular. And this increases rates of water runoff pollution into nearby waterways, which is another factor to the nutrient pollution crisis that nearby waterways in the region are facing. So certainly the solution that we're promoting for green harvesting not only has the obvious public health benefit, but also has environmental benefits of reducing pollution impacts and inputs into nearby waterways. And also there's the climate change mitigation aspect in that green harvesting, especially when practiced by utilizing the trash as mulch in a manner of agricultural practice known as regenerative agriculture, can help absorb carbon from the air and also increase nutrient cycling, which can reduce the need for chemical fertilizers, and which hence would reduce issues with runoff into nearby waterways. So the solution of green harvesting, which I can get into later, what I learned a lot about at the Green Cane Project in Brazil when I got a chance to visit, certainly it can have a very beneficial surrounding environmental impact as well.
Thank you for that. I think there's a tendency by some detractors to say that environmental issues are not really human issues and to drive a wedge between communities. And as we can see here, they are very closely related. I mean, this has direct human impacts, environmental impacts. It's about quality of life for everyone. So thank you for explaining that. And Robert, we got a question in from Facebook that I want to throw to you. The question is, what are the elected officials from the affected counties doing to address the issue? Before you answer that, will you tell us about your experience recently running for office and what it was like to run for office as a candidate who was openly critical of sugar companies and their practices?
Well, absolutely. Yes. I just ran and completed a term, my second term, for a fight for justice and a voice for my community. And so the marathon continues. However, during that marathon, it was very interesting because I didn't heavily focus in my platform with the sugarcane burning, but it was definitely there. But it wasn't a heavy impact. But the interesting thing that I found was I had a potential voter that came to me and said that they heard that I was trying to support getting rid of the sugar mills. You know what I'm saying? That I wanted to actually come, and I could not. But I'm like, what are y'all people here? Please talk to me. Please talk to me. When you hear something as strong and as significant as that, please come to me. And what stood out to me was that, there are some propaganda out there to not really focus in on what it really is. And there's a lot of sitting leaders that don't even want to touch the subject. They don't even want to talk about it because of the funding and the different things and the relationships that they have with the sugarcane industry. Me, I'm a little different in the aspect that, everything about my political run is real. It's not, there's no hidden agendas. It's all about the betterment of my community. So hearing that, I wanted to just first of all make it clear that this is not in no way a platform to get rid of the sugarcane industry. No. Her soil is her fortune, and we all know that, and we want it to still be her fortune. However, there are some things that can actually bring prosperity to the community in this new process that we're talking about, just with clean burning, which other people other communities are already practicing and seeing the benefits of. In our community where we have a disparity with jobs, clean energy can bring that in. We're around here burning because we say the leaves are trash, but this can make biofuel. Come on. You know what I'm saying? So it's some different things to it, but I will say to that person, to my knowledge, the leaders that we have put into office, they're pretty silent on the issues and kind of made it very known that they have a relationship with the sugar industry that they don't want to touch. But that's not Mr. Mitchell, because if it's affecting my family, if it's affecting my niece, if it's affecting me, it's an issue and we should address it in the way of solution. And I would love to have a conversation with the sugar industry of solution, not anything other than solution. So did that answer the question, Eve?
Yes, it did. And I want to go a little farther on this. There's definitely an effort to paint opponents of sugarcane burning as anti-farmer. And you just touched on that. I'd like to hear Kina's thoughts on that as well. What do you say when people say you're being anti-farmer?
Well, my life like speak for itself, and I'm all for the community. Everything that I do is for the community, and I wouldn't dare take anything out of the mouths of my people. You know, the sugar company is very much so needed and it's appreciated, but there's a way that we have to go about doing things. Any business that you have, you always come to a place where you have to bring on new ideas and new inventions to be better for your neighbors, which we are their neighbors because you're surrounding us. What's better for the neighbors, which better for the ones that work for you, which better for even the communities. When we look at this picture here, we shouldn't live in a community where we got smoke wrapped around us. They can't think that that is healthy for us at all. When you got smoke that going across the highways when we're trying to drive our cars and might run into each other, that's not healthy because you cannot predict which ways the winds will go. They will shift at any time, and you burning in the belly of our communities. So no, it's not about closing down the sugar mill. Many of us have family members that work for the sugar mill. So it's not about that. It's about bringing new jobs. It's about having a fresh and healthy environment. And it's about you just doing right by the people. And it's hard for them to do that because no one has never stood up against them. No one has never challenged them. No one has never called them out on their stuff. And so when you have those that are in local leadership that is well connected with them and not willing to put their own personal stuff to the side and do what's right by the people in the community, it continues. And we understand that this is an uphill battle, but we're willing to fight because I refuse to leave this battle on the back of my kids and my grandkids and generations to come.
Thank you, Kina. Patrick, so Sierra Club and the Stop the Burn campaign has called for a 27 to 30 mile buffer. Let's discuss why that larger buffer is necessary. Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Fried did recently announce some new zones. Why do we need a buffer that large, in your opinion?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, to address the point of the new zones, proposed zones that were announced in August 4th, what we had in that announcement was words stating that we're going to redraw the zone maps to reflect that there's been an increase in population growth among the Glades communities as compared to when the rules were first drawn up. And, that proposition seems to put forth that only communities that have a sufficient population density are worthy of the protections from pollution that other communities are receiving. And, we certainly reject that aspect in the same manner that, no communities should be disproportionately impacted by pollution based off of race, nor should they be disproportionately impacted based off of population density. So, and then getting back to the fact of why we have been calling for a common sense, unconditional buffer zone to prioritize the protection of the impacted communities, is that by putting forth more say stricter wind condition rules, you're still left with the same problem that, you're dealing with an unpredictable science And the fact that you've got, as many as 70 plus burns that can take place in over 5,000 acres in one day, trying to pretend that, hey, we'll take these added steps before approving burns and in the morning during the harvesting, each morning during the harvesting season is going to really have an impact. I believe is certainly a false narrative to put forward. And so where we've started with this buffer zone that we've put forward is we've taken data from the Florida Forest Service's own map, and we found that on multiple occasions plumes can stretch from a given burn as much as 26 miles. So if we're going to really honestly, look at folks in the community and who we're trying to provide more protection from, then we should start with a minimum 27 to 30 mile radius for sugarcane fields around impacted communities where there's an unconditional burn put in place. And then you have the added factor of COVID-19 coming to play. And the Glades communities in Western Palm Beach County emerged as an early hotspot. And sugarcane burning continued business as usual, through May last harvesting season. It's about to start up again. And Nikki Freed is the agricultural commissioner who is in charge of the sugarcane burning rules, has put herself forward as a leader in Florida on addressing COVID-19, and she's rightfully criticized Governor DeSantis' handling of it. But here's a case where she has the opportunity to follow CDC guidelines and provide protections for vulnerable communities during this pandemic. And from what she's put forth in August 4th, which, really was just, we're still waiting for more details as to what these new burn zones will look like and what, if any, protection and how they will provide, when it's clear that we're undergoing a pandemic right now. And, her as a leader who is trying to protect the Floridians, we're asking her to act. And the common sense means of action is providing a buffer zone to protect, not any conditional buffer zone, an unconditional buffer zone to guarantee the protection of the most vulnerable communities. And that's where we're coming from with our demand for a 27 to 30 mile buffer zone.
And you anticipated one of our Facebook questions, which is, what is Commissioner Freed's position? So you just articulated that, and we won't know until 2021, when these new zones are supposed to take effect, what they will look like, practically speaking, on the ground. And I'll mention too that inspired by Stop the Burns work, Friends of the Everglades has joined in that call for a 27 to 30 mile buffer. We sent a letter to Commissioner Freed yesterday calling for that. And
Yes.
also calling on her to eventually.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We think it's the right thing to do for all the reasons we're talking about today. And we also want her to eventually halt burning altogether and transition to green harvesting practices. So this,
can I say something real quick? And it's important for the ones out here that are listening and watching us right now to understand that there already have been measures taken for other communities, as when we talk about over on the coast, but also in Hendrick County, where we know that we have a Walmart there. They're not allowed to burn around the Walmart because of what is bad for business. So if something is bad for business, it's not bad for the community.
interesting.
I should note, we learned that on two separate occasions going to the U.S. Sugarland tour, when we asked the tour guides about green harvesting. And we were told on two separate occasions that they green harvest those fields surrounding Walmart, which also just so happens to border the north part of Clewiston, which is a more affluent side of town. And when I asked why, I was told simply that it's done as a courtesy to the residents of Clewiston. This campaign is all about extending that courtesy to all residents who are impacted by this tactic and outdated practice.
It's so clear when you tell those two stories, what's happening at Rosenwald Elementary and what's happening next to Walmart. So let's talk about what green harvesting is. You went to Brazil, right, Patrick, to take a look at it?
Yes, yes.
And how is it done, and how can it be incentivized here in Florida? One of our Facebook questioners asked about incentives.
Sure, sure. Well, first and foremost, let me describe that it's really not an esoteric process. All modern mechanical harvesters, including the harvesters used by Florida sugarcane growers, are equipped to mechanically harvest unburnt sugarcane. And it's actually becoming the norm around the world in developed countries that have access to these same harvesters. And for instance, there's a law passed in Thailand just last year designed to phase out pre-harvest sugar field burning in favor of green harvesting over the course of the next 3 years. And it's a predominant practice in Australia, and also Zimbabwe has fully developed the type of green harvesting they do in Brazil. And going back to Brazil, they're really the shining example in that the place that I got to visit in particular, they started green harvesting in the 80s. And it was an uncommon practice back then. But, through the course of time, and there's a company called Native Brand located in Sao Paulo, Brazil. They've developed one of the world's largest regenerative organic agricultural operations that supplies 1/3 of the world's organic sugarcane supply. And it's all organic sugarcane that is green harvested. And in addition to producing organic sugarcane through 2 mills, they generate enough electricity for a city of almost 600,000 people. They also generate ethanol as well, and they definitively view trash as treasure there.
Can you repeat that, Patrick, about the energy? Can you please repeat that about the energy? They provide what? What
enough electricity from 2 mills supplied, fed by over 54,000 acres of sugarcane to provide the energy needs for a city of close to 600,000 people. And they early on viewed the sugarcane trash as a vital part of their operation, as it's primarily used as mulch. And they viewed over time that due to the nutrient cycling, they were able to remove their reliance on chemical fertilizers and also chemical herbicides, as the trash beds were able to prevent the growth of a lot of different harmful weeds as well. But over time, and it didn't happen overnight, they were able to increase their yields versus burnt sugarcane. And what opened my eyes, and I was thinking of Florida right away, is that wow, sugarcane can be grown in a way friendly to nature, with nature, and not against it. And the biodiversity that has been documented on these farms has actually is more so than on a nearby state park. And I encourage everybody, because I could go on and on, because it's exciting stuff. I encourage everybody to look up the Green Cane Project in Brazil. And to bring things back to Florida, well, actually, Louisiana is a lot further ahead in the amount of green harvesting that they do than is currently done in Florida. But, Florida growers do green harvest. They green harvest whenever a burn permit is denied, or because of specific soil conditions, it's more convenient for them, or in the case of Walmart. So it's something they're already doing. And sure, we're asking them to change their overall harvesting system, and that involves costs. But it's a worthy investment, and in the process of doing that, they can create new streams of revenue. That same trash, as you've already heard, can be used for biofuels, biochar. And I've talked to farmers in Australia that make more money selling their trash as commercial mulch than they do from the sugarcane that is even grown. And
so Patrick, let me jump in there and ask Robert and Keena, when you talk to your neighbors about green harvesting, what's the reaction? Are they concerned? Do these possibilities sound good to them? And what's blocking local leaders from embracing it?
Yes, well, I will speak first and say that yes, the majority of people that I had the conversation with, first of all, they identify that it is a problem and they know that the burning is an issue. So that's always the first conversation. But the second part is the solution. And so when I introduce or I tell them about green harvesting, they're like, oh my God. Like I think they don't think that it's real. They don't think that it actually can happen. And I'm saying, listen, I got facts. I have things that I can show you. And once they come upon that, they're asking the same questions like, why are they not supporting this? Well, I can't really speak for that. Only thing I can know when you ask about a political run, it's always been because I did not see the needs of the communities being put first. So this is just another example of that. So to me, it's just business as usual, which you guys are not first. So yeah. But their response has always been, that sounds great, and especially when they know and they find out what type of jobs they can bring to the community. Like, are you kidding me? In a community that needs jobs right now, you mean to tell me the trash from our sugarcane can increase our fortune? Yes, it can. Yes, it can. So yes.
So I mean, how can we incentivize this in Florida? It is more expensive, right? But it can create jobs and create these other revenue streams that we're talking about. How can we incentivize it? And I'll open that up to the group.
Well, sure. I'll just add that first and foremost, as Robert touched upon, awareness is first. Awareness, builds a demand and public pressure. And, as we all know, power concedes nothing without demand. And the sugar industry is not going to make these investments that they don't have to right now. Unless there's pressure to do so. So that's definitely a big part of it. And another thing I'd like to educate everybody on is the fact that organic sugarcane per USDA organic field crop standards has to be green harvested. It can't be burnt. And Florida Crystals does produce a small amount of organic sugarcane, but by as a consumer, you can send the message to the industry and increase the demand by, going out of your way to purchase organic sugarcane. So that is another option. But education of all your local politicians and stakeholders is key. That goes a long way towards ultimately, building the awareness and pressure we need. And then in getting back to the federal sugar program,
Yeah.
certainly, our domestic sugar growers do receive a lot of benefits from the federal government, and I don't think it's crazy at all to demand that say, hey, if you want to receive these benefits that is protecting you from prices on the global market, then you must meet certain standards. So that's another future on down the line way that I'd like to see green harvesting be implemented. But you know what? They're already doing this in small amounts, and Commissioner Freed has used words encouraging the adoption of green harvesting. I'll tell you what. She can do a lot more than just encouraging by putting in unconditional buffer zones, which requires sugarcane growers to green harvest in more fields than they currently are doing. So these are a number of options that certainly come to my mind. And also, the industry, it shouldn't be about us. This is being anti-farmers. We're not attacking the small farmers that are locked into and following the policies dictated by the mill owners. Folks might not know, but sugarcane trash that comes in with billets that are sold in certain mills, those farmers will be penalized based on the amount of trash that comes in with it. And there's also infrastructure at the mills where green harvesting is practiced that can help make it more economic. So it's not something that the small farmers should have to bear the costs on.
Right.
The big sugar, the executives, they could spend less money buying politicians and lobbyists and more money on innovation towards transitioning to green harvesting, and they can make it happen. Don't let them tell you that they can't.
Come on, Patrick.
Come on, Brad.
So here's an interesting question from Facebook. Have any Palm Beach County commissioners visited during the burns?
Palm Beach County commissioners? Yeah, they're very aware of what's going on. They're very they know what's going on. It's not a secret about what's going on. It's not a secret about this fight that we're in against what's going on. Anytime that we put out something to educate the people, guess what? They come back with something. If we put out one mailer, they're gonna send out about 5 or 6 mailers. They're gonna send out they're gonna put out door knockers, they do commercials, they do all kinds of stuff. They put out all kinds of lies to try to combat what it is that when we put out the truth about what's going on. And that's why our people don't know what to believe, because they're being told, oh, if we don't burn, the snakes and the rats and stuff gonna come up in your house. And come on now, if the snakes and rats come when the fire come into their habitation, that's just common sense. But if you don't use common sense, you'll fall for the tactics of what they feed you, you know? And so the people won't change. They know there's a problem, but they're very intimidated.
So I know we're all I know we're all hopeful people because we're still talking about this despite all the obstacles that you just articulated. So we've seen a dramatic change in the national conversation this year, and it followed the murder of George Floyd. So I'd like to ask you, Robert, and I see your Black Lives Matter shirt, and how does what we're talking about here with sugarcane burning, the Stop the Burn campaign, fit into the broader movement we're seeing this year in terms of racial justice in America?
Thank you for asking that question, Eve. And that's very important for people to understand, because sometimes when you wear the logo as Black Lives Matters, there's still people that don't quite understand why it should matter, which I don't understand, but they don't understand some of the facts behind what it is that we have to endure. Well, here is a clear picture where you have a community suffering in a time of a pandemic that affects the respiratory system, and they're burning chemicals in the air only within the Black and brown communities. But the affluent communities, which is, all lives matter, over there, what I'm saying, they put a buffer there and they put a stop there to stop that. So here we get a chance to look, America, at a situation that should be common sense. First of all, even with COVID, to me, it shouldn't be a discussion. It should be, hey, let's halt on the burning, because we're dealing with something we never dealt with before in our lives. You know what I'm saying? So how about we just stop the burn for a moment to make sure that our residents and everybody is healthier. However, that's not the consideration. It's business as usual, because it's a Black community. And not only that, what I would have to say to some of the Black communities, we have to understand this is 2020 now, which I believe represents perfect vision. We see the problem and we must become vocal about what we deserve and what we need in our communities. It's not to start a fight. It's not to be an antagonist in a situation. It's about what you deserve. Everybody deserves to work hard and come home and live in peace. When I come home and not only to talk about this burn, not only is the ash we got to deal with, but some of the smells that we got to deal with when it's burning. It's ridiculous, Eve. I don't think you'll deal with it, Patrick. I think you probably smelled it. And for me, coming from having the opportunity to see other communities, whether that been when I went to college in Tallahassee or when the Lord sent me to Los Angeles to live, I know what good communities are. And I know how people that fight for communities and the communities that fight for themselves, what they see. So I'm just trying to encourage our other communities to understand that right now, Black lives do matter. And people think that they can just dump ash on us because we won't say anything. We will not speak up. And that is important to understand. So Black lives matter. And please make your voice be heard. Join us. If you're not sure about information, if you don't know facts that you need to know, educate yourself before you speak. But I guarantee you'll be speaking in the way that all 4 of us here are represented right now, because this really is a common sense situation, but it's disproportionately affecting Black and brown communities right now in 2020, and that should stop.
Thank you, Robert. And we are posting links to Stop the Burn resources in our Facebook comments, so they'll be easy to find for anyone watching who does want to get involved. Kina, I want to ask you what success looks like for Stop the Burn, for this battle you've been fighting for years. at what point would you say we've been successful?
When our people can breathe, when our people can breathe healthy air, have clean water, when our fishes is not contaminated, when the companies consider us, when we have more jobs in our community due to green harvesting, when our leaders stand up on the platform that they speak, when they want votes, but then as they remain in the seats, they turn their back on the things that they said that they're going to do. Even when it comes to Nikki Fried, when she stand up and do what she spoke she was going to do, when she met me and sat in my face and talked with me, she talked with me and she acted as if like she was genuinely concerned about, and she agreed that it was a problem. But now that you have been granted that title, that role, that position, you have not stood on your word. When man begin to stand on their word that it affect the people in my community in a positive way, then that is successful for me. When this battle is over and it don't fall on the back of my grandson and generations to come, that's success for me.
Thank you, Keena. Patrick, what elected officials or leaders have the most power over helping with the solution? We've talked a lot about Commissioner Nikki Fried. She's obviously one. Who else do we need to talk to make a change here?
Sure. So real quick, Florida being a right to farm act state, there's a lot of limitations on what any local politicians or even the state legislature can do. So currently, the authority on the sugarcane burning rules lies solely with Nikki Fried as the state's agricultural commissioner who oversees the Florida Forest Service. So that's where our primary focus has been on, and I encourage folks to contact her office, but I encourage everyone to educate their local leaders, their congressmen, their state reps, across the board. Because injustice like this really only thrives when there's not a light shone upon it. So the more awareness we can spread on this injustice, the more pressure and the quicker a solution will certainly be reached.
And you mentioned protections for the sugar industry and federal farm policy, the Farm Bill. That's another area where I believe we can apply pressure. Our members of Congress pass that Farm Bill every 5 years or so, and I believe it was last passed in late 2018. That's the bill that enables these protections to continue, price supports and import quotas. And that's another area where we can think about having impact.
Absolutely.
So we do have one last question here I want to get to before we kind of sign off. And I think we could talk for another hour about this because it's so fascinating. And I know the conversation will continue afterward. So here's one. This is actually from a person who wants to know if there are companies that would be open to mechanically harvesting and then sending the waste out for composting. Is there kind of a cottage industry that could emerge from the green harvesting we talked about?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. The problem is just it's not being implemented on a large enough scale. But eventually, very much you could have people come in, and this is from what I've learned where green harvesting is practiced elsewhere. Separate companies come in and bale the sugarcane trash and process it for their own use. It's just a manner of them being like, okay, hey, this is a direction we want to go down. And then, very quickly with the amount of research that is out there and people that are interested, from many different fields, in utilizing this what's currently being wasted biomass material, then, solutions will come.
Great. Thank you for answering that. I'm going to stop my screen share here and bring you all up full size as we wrap up here in our last minute or two. So I just want to mention that Friends of the Everglades, as I said earlier, sent a letter to Nikki Fried yesterday calling on her to enact these larger burn buffers, 27 to 30 miles. and ultimately work toward an end of burning and embracing green harvesting practices. And if anyone watching is interested in supporting that, we have an action that we'll be emailing out later today. You can, with just a few clicks, sign on to that, and it'll go directly to Commissioner Freed. So if you get our emails from Friends of the Everglades, we'll make that easy for you. I want to give you all just a few moments each to articulate what everyday people can do right now after watching this to help solve the problem. So I'll kick it to Keena first.
My plea is that you all get connected. Get connected, come in and tell your truth, tell your story, come get in the fight with us, because we cannot expect change by doing the same thing and expecting a different result. We know that our kids are suffering. We know that our elderlies are suffering. People have suffered with this all of their lives, and we shouldn't have to settle for this. So contact us, email me, inbox me, contact the Stop the Sugarcane Burning page. So let's have a talk. Let us hear your story. We want to hear about how you suffered, how your kids. So we need to know that, because real stories are more impactful than numbers and graphs.
Thank you. Robert, what's your advice?
Well, my advice to the community would be, well, first of all, thank you for tuning in, everybody that's watching now. Don't let that stop here. There's links that you can do where you can have a voice, but also support. Someone asked a question about the local leadership and the leadership around. Start there. At commissioners meetings, make sure that it's a question on the agenda, just to start the conversation up, to say, hey, listen, we voted for you to protect us. This is why we have you in a position. There's an issue here that that seems like it's not unreasonable. No one is asking for anything that is unreasonable. To breathe clean air. Trust me, Belglade, Mug City, you deserve it. You deserve that. Understand that you're worth that. I understand we've seen some things all of our lives, and so sometimes you just think it's normal. But trust me, that sniffle, that rasping your voice, other people are not experiencing that. So I just would encourage everybody to have a voice. He who stands for nothing will fall for anything. We cannot continue to fall for anything, Glades. So listen, if you need to contact me, I'm always available and I'm always on your side. And everyone on this panel is as well. Just reach out, have a voice, say something. Just don't do, if you're not doing anything, we know that won't work. Do something. Yeah.
Thank you, Robert. Patrick, you get the final word.
Sure. So, I guess I'd like to direct this message, to folks who might be new to this issue and still trying to figure out how it connects with, their main points of interest. And, especially in regards to Everglades restoration, I really view this as the missing piece. It's all connected, not only from the circumstance of green harvesting being a solution which benefits the long-term goals of Everglades restoration as well, but understand that the Glades communities themselves are the missing piece of the puzzle. They've far too often been overlooked. And in reaching for solutions, it's been, people, disconnected from the Glades, not getting input from folks in the Glades on how Everglades restoration, could impact them and how they can get involved. And I guarantee you, as soon as they're all at the table, you've heard from the strong leaders, and there's many more of them, like Kina and Robert, that in no time that solutions that benefit all parties involved will be reached. So I just encourage folks that getting involved with this campaign and supporting this fight certainly is going to help the fights that you're all involved in. An injustice to one community is an injustice to all communities. Right. And this is part of a growing movement that is taking place all over the world, where we need to take a stand against the reckless pursuit of short-term profits over human health and human dignity. And this is just a small front in that battle. So join us.
Well put, Patrick. For so long, the story of the Everglades has been one of profiteering at the expense of less advantaged communities. And we want to put an end to that as part of our mission at Friends of the Everglades. And this conversation today helps in that regard. I have faith that it does. So thank you all for being here. You've been wonderful, informative, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you, Eve.
You.
Thank you for this